first and foremost, how you doing? How's your health, man?
I'm good. I'm fine.
Um,
Um,
yeah, go.
yeah, Saturday I suffered some injuries that caused the fight to be waived, but I'm fine.
Could you elaborate on like the injuries that you had? I know I read somewhere that you had a broken nose and a separated shoulder. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Pretty much just a broken nose and a separated shoulder. The
um,
separated shoulder that came like in camp. Like
mm,
I pretty much went into the fight with like that problem, but it was overall a good fight.
does a part of you kind of, I don't know, does a part of you kind of like regret going into that fight with, one bad shoulder?
Part of me, but I make no regrets. It was a good fight. Gave the fans what they wanted, but I was ready to continue the fight. I was ready to go to 0-12, but you know, due to the injuries, Kevin decided to just waive the fight.
But
At the same time, he was looking out for me and my health and my well being.
got it for
But
sure.
with the fighter in me, wish we would have just took that to the scorecards.
Gotcha. Before we even jump into the scorecards, did at what point did the shoulder probably affect you the most? And I know you're not the type of guy that'll, try to make like any excuses or take anything away from Fundora or anything like that. But do you think the shoulder injury was probably the main contributor as to why you were, why you came up short on Saturday?
I mean, after a while, I feel like it was bothering me. I think it was like the third or fourth round where I actually felt my shoulder,
Hmm.
and then a few times he punched me. He punched me on my shoulder, so he just pretty much added to the damage.
Mm.
And yeah, eventually, I mean, my shoulder was blown, like separated before the knockdown, before I knocked him down.
Okay.
So maybe like round four, that's when I really started to feel my shoulder.
Gotcha. Now, to kind of piggyback off that, like in the first round, because I got a chance to watch the entire fight, but in the first round, you were boxing beautifully, man. Like, the jab was pumping, you was hitting them with hooks, and Fundora really couldn't get off on you in the first round. In the second, that's when he dropped you, and that's when it kind of seemed like, you wanted to just kind of plant your feet and just kind of fight fire with fire. When I got a chance to talk to a few people, they were kind of saying that Lubin was fighting probably not the best game plan. They should have just stood on the outside and boxed him. But is that more so just easier said than done when your opponent is just so big?
Yeah, it's definitely easier said than done. And I felt like when I was boxing him, he was catching up to me like he's catching up to me pretty quick. I could have kept boxing. I definitely could have kept boxing. Maybe like a few more rounds. But
Hmm.
at the same time, I felt like you know um, you know my legs weren't under me like how I would have liked them to be.
Okay.
So he was able to catch up to me pretty quick
Okay.
because he's so tall. So like by the time he takes one step, he's right back in my range.
Hmm.
So I pretty much felt like I had to sit down and fight the boy.
Got it. Makes sense. I've watched your career pretty much from the beginning until now. And from what I've seen, I haven't seen you get into like wars or anything like that, but I do know what happens in the gym. Not per se your gym, but I do know what happens in gyms, like the crazy sparring stories and stuff like that. Like, is there ever a time where maybe in like some of those sessions when you're sparring, or maybe even back in the amateurs where you had like an all out war like the one you had this past Saturday?
Yeah. I mean, I've been in plenty of those type of fights.
Got
Not in the pros necessarily, but I've been in pretty a lot of wars in the gym, a lot of wars in the amateurs. You know, Saturday night was just it's pretty much no different.
got it. Okay.
I went in there with that mindset, anyways. I knew I had to fight the boy after a while.
Mm, okay.
I knew he wasn't just gonna, you know, like just let me outbox him the whole time.
So I guess kind of.
He was catching up to me pretty quick. That's what I was thinking in the ring. As I was in the ring, I was just like, yeah, I'm boxing him, but he's catching up to me like fast. Like he's right back in my range, like real fast. And I knew he wanted to make it a inside fight. I just thought I was the stronger fighter, like all around. You know, he is definitely busy. He's
Yeah.
a busy fighter. But I just felt like I was stronger than him. I was
Gotcha.
able to move him back and everything.
Speaking of, how big he is, I know for this past training camp you were training with Jamonte Clark, and he's about 6'2.5", somewhere around there. I've seen in the past where you've sparred with guys like Edgar Berlanga, who fights, two weight classes above you. Um, was it just I know obviously Fundora's 6'6", so you knew he was gonna be a bigger guy. But when you got in the ring, did it kind of surprise you? I'm not even sure if you noticed, but even on social media, Terrence Crawford also chimed in where he was just like, "Yo, Fundora's like a cheat code because he's so big." So did his size like just kind of throw you off your game a little bit?
I really, no,
Okay, got
I
it.
don't feel like it threw me off because I mean, I was sparring dudes in camp 6'6", you know, like pretty tall. You know, they all surprised me to be honest.
Mm,
How tall they are and making that weight. But it was just Saturday night. I just felt like I don't know. I felt good. I felt like I was a stronger man. So I tried to bring the fight to him, and that's the same game plan he pretty much had with me. Cause
now,
I had a feeling he thought I was gonna like pretty much try to box him the whole time. Cause my previous fights, my last couple fights, I just you know been able to outclass dudes by just boxing them.
mhm. Now, when it comes to the second round, when you did get dropped, you got up really fast though. So, were you hurt at that point, or was it more so of a flash knockdown? He caught you with a pretty good shot.
Yeah, I think it was just a flash knockdown.
Okay, so not a complete huge deal. All right, so from the first to the sixth, you guys are fighting real. It's a real firefight in the middle of the ring, pretty much. And then in the seventh, it was a ridiculous barrage on your point. You knocked his mouthpiece about halfway across the ring, and you just start pummeling him from there until he had to be forced to take the knee. Right after that happened, you kind of looked to the crowd, started screaming, and all of the momentum was like in your corner. Did you kind of feel like, okay, I know I'm about to get him out of it now?
Yeah, I kind of I did feel that way, and that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to get him out because my face was already like swelled up by then.
Hmm. Did speaking of the swelling, did any of the swelling really affect your vision, or did it come to a point where you were just like, man, I don't really want to get hit anymore because I don't want I don't want the ref to stop it, I don't want the doctors to step in or anything like that. Was there any
Honestly,
concern?
honestly, honestly, by the time I noticed the swelling and everything, or I felt it, the fight was damn near already over with. I was locked in. I didn't even think about it. Honestly,
Mm,
I knew my face may have been swollen because I went back and I blew my nose in the corner. They tell
mm,
you not to do that, but
yeah.
you know, like I didn't really know better. They say when you're like swelled up or nose or something is wrong with your nose, you're bleeding through your nose, they tell you not to blow it because then it'll puff up the rest of your face or something like that.
Yeah, I believe it's when you have a broken nose, the last thing you're supposed to do is kind of like I think it's like sneeze or you do something with your nose, and if you do it, that's when everything pretty much goes wrong, pretty much.
Yeah, have did that. I may have did something like that.
Gotcha. Now, speaking of that seventh round, were you kind of surprised by his chin and like just how he was able to get back up and just keep on fighting?
Nah, I wasn't really surprised because he's young and he's in a good position. I felt like he was coming to fight. I thought he was gonna come to fight all night. Even though I dropped him, I felt like, all right, well, I got to get right back on it because this kid's coming. Like, especially when the bell rung.
Yeah.
When the bell rung, I felt like, I mean, maybe after the first knockdown, I felt like, all right, I could pretty much just stop him right here if I have enough time. But then when you hear that knock, like it's the 10-second bell,
Yeah.
I felt like, all right, man, now I got to calm down and prepare for the next round
Got it.
because obviously gonna be more game than he was after he gets knocked down.
Got it. Makes sense. In like the eighth, but mostly in the ninth, you spent a lot of that round in particular at kind of staying on the ropes, keeping up like a really high guard. At that point, was it the shoulder that was bothering you? Were you dead tired? Were you trying to reserve your energy for like the championship rounds?
Well, well, I feel like in those rounds, like my shoulder, I wasn't able to block any of his punches. Like my shoulder had already like separated, and I couldn't really block any punches. So like a lot of the times I was spinning on the ropes, but it really felt like I just couldn't block any of his punches. I was trying to block some of his punches, but like I had to either clinch him or I had to just fight back because when I was trying to block his uppercuts or I was trying to just block some of his punches, like he'll be throwing at my the right side of my face, which was like pretty much swollen, and I couldn't really block it because like I said, my shoulder was just like it was already given out, like it's already separated. It was like he was easily penetrating it.
Got it. Okay. Got it. Makes sense. But after the ninth, like you had like a real look of disbelief on your face when Kevin came up on the apron and he kind of shook his hands and said, "Hey, the fight is over." Before that point, did you guys have a conversation like maybe in the eighth or the beginning of the ninth where he was probably saying, "Hey, your defense isn't going too well," or you're taking too many shots. I'm thinking about stopping
Nah,
it.
nah, we didn't have that conversation. We didn't have that conversation.
Does
And he seemed up. I guess he just seemed up. I don't blame him. He's like looking out for me, but like I said, like the fighter in me, I could have kept going. I could have finished that fight if I would have got a fair warning, like, oh yeah, I'm about to stop the fight. I think you're taking too much, punches or your face is messed up or something like that. I would have changed up my game plan or something. I would have got the boxing or something. I would have figured it out.
mm, okay. So I'm assuming that a part of you does wish that, you know, Kevin came to you at the end of the ninth and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about stopping it," and giving you like one last hurrah instead of just
Yeah,
saying,
I do
"Hey."
wish that. I definitely do wish that. I really wish um my cut man would have put some into it. I think he um how can I say this? He put a bag of ice on my face almost every round.
Okay.
Instead of like, putting some insulin and getting the swelling down a little bit.
Okay.
So like I feel like he could have definitely put some inswell and like work on my face like every round so I don't come out, still looking the same way I went in the
So
corner.
so pretty much you kind of wish that, and I know you're not trying to say it in a way to like trash your corner or anything like that, but maybe you kind of wish that they did like a better job of working on the swelling, pretty much.
Yeah, just my cut, man.
Okay.
Just my cut.
Got it, got it. I'm pretty sure it was probably. I mean, I know it was obviously heartbreaking when he stopped the fight, but I'm pretty sure it was even more heartbreaking when you realized that you were up on the scores. Um, Do you believe that if Kevin never went up to you and said, I'm stopping the fight, and like that thought never crossed his mind, do you believe that you could have did enough in those last 3 rounds to, hold on to your slim lead and eke out a decision?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Those are the championship rounds. Those are the rounds you talk about in the gym every day. When it gets to crunch time, when it gets to those grueling rounds where you gotta like bite down.
Hmm.
I'm for it. I'm all for it. I think I was definitely bit down and came out with a decision.
Got it.
Maybe
Say it again.
maybe even a knockout.
Okay. Definitely understand that. Um, you
Cause
know,
like even during those rounds, like round seven, like when I would hit him, I felt him like wobble a few times. Like he we got him out of position a few times every time we hit him during those those last few rounds.
got it. Since you partnered with Kevin Cunningham, obviously before this fight, but you guys were on a roll, stopping top contender after top contender. But just the manner in which this fight was stopped. A lot of people online, boxers from Errol Spence and Tony Harrison, J Rock, they're all saying that hey, Kevin did the right thing, which I don't think that you're gonna disagree on it, but do you think it'll probably place like a little bit of a wedge between you guys just because you weren't able to get that little final, hey, I'm thinking about stopping it or anything like that? Or do you think it's possibly a situation where it could bring you guys closer?
I mean, like I said, I don't blame Kevin. Like he's gonna do whatever he thinks is best for me. But like I said, I'm a fighter, so man, I could have went the whole 12 rounds and just pulled out the decision or something.
Absolutely.
I don't think this is gonna draw us any further from each other. I think this is actually gonna have us get closer. I think me and my whole team.
Okay. Um, I know that you said before the Fundora fight that you were leaning a little bit towards Charlo picking up the win against Castano. Now, if that happens, obviously he'll become undisputed. And there's been a little bit of talks of, if he becomes undisputed, he'd be willing to, just move up automatically, but you leave all of the belts vacant. In your next fight, would you be interested in fighting for one of those vacant titles immediately, or did you kind of want to take your time a little bit?
What am I taking my time for?
Hey, that's what
I
I'm
don't
asking
need
you, brother.
I don't need to take my time. I want to get to them belts. That's what I'm doing this for.
Got it. Makes sense. Do you feel like a rematch with Fundora was pretty much inevitable at this point?
Yeah, for sure. I think they're gonna get it right. I think that's gonna happen sooner than later. I don't think it's gonna be one of those Charlo type of fights where I have to wait 4 or 5 years. I think this one's gonna happen ASAP.
Got it.
I got out, when I got out the ring, we were already talking about it
You was talking about it with your team.
with my team, with the team.
Okay, got it. Love to hear it, man. Speaking of the Charlo thing, when you lost to him in, I believe it was 2017, it was about 5 years and 6 wins in a row until you was able to, kind of get back into a position where you were about to fight for another world title. Because if you had won that fight against Fundora, you would have been WBC interim. But in at least in a few of your fights, they kept on saying final eliminator. So does like a part of you feel somewhat cheated because it was like, hey, I was supposed to get so many. I had so many final eliminators, but I never got the title shot.
Right.
So does a
I
part of you
felt
feel cheated?
I felt like I should have been got the title fight, but I think I'm gonna get what I deserve these next coming fights. I think the fight with Fundora didn't do anything to my stock. Maybe it raised my stock more than have dropped it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like after the conversations I had with Al and my team, I think we'll be right back to the title contention.
Now, backtracking back to that Charlo loss, because you were super highly touted, coming out as an amateur, and then in the pros you were dominating everybody, so you didn't really have any problems with anybody. But then when you lose to Charlo, did you have to have that little, I guess you can say, soul searching kind of moment? And pretty much what I'm trying to ask you is, do you think that loss to Charlo kind of helped you because you've seen how you reacted and how you picked up those 6 wins in a row, and you know how you can react now?
Yeah, yeah, it's way different. When I lost to Charlo, I was much younger, so it kind of it put me in a bad place mentally. But I knew exactly how to get back on top and how to be happy. Pretty much, I knew I had to just get right back into title contention, right back to fighting the best fighters, beating the best fighters, and I know exactly what it takes, man. I know exactly what it takes
Got
to
it.
get to the top.
Um, I know that you're only 26 years old, and you're already talking about trying to get a rematch with Fundora and just trying to fight your way back to getting a world title. After the fight, Tony Harrison was just like, hey, if I'm Lubin after going through a war like that, I'm thinking about retiring. I'm assuming that's probably not on your mind at all, but what's kind of your thoughts on him saying that?
That tells you about his mental. That shit just fuels me up. That was fuel. Just going into a fight like that, especially I was in the ambulance when I found out I was winning the fight, so it was kind of like, damn, like I wish I would have just known or something. But there's a lot of mistakes that I made. it was mainly during the fight. Like blowing my nose and stuff like that, and then going into the fight with my shoulder the way it was. Because when I was in camp, I actually I had the shoulder problems, and then I would do some therapy to it, like recovery or whatever,
Okay.
and the pain would go away. So I felt like it was really nothing, and then going into the fight, it was just like a whole different story. It's just like it was like the worst pain I felt so far, especially with him punching with those little gloves, punching my shoulders. It really made it worse. But there's still no quitting me. I was like, I knew how high the stakes were, and I definitely wanted to win, like as bad as I wanted to breathe. So I basically I put everything to the side and I just kept fighting.
Another thing that I wanted to touch on is, I know that with the whole Charlo thing, I know that you mentioned that, following that fight, you had like nightmares about it. You would think about it. So it was like a real mental hurdle for you. If there, I know the Fundora fight is still pretty fresh, but is there any mental hurdles when it comes to that, or no?
Nah, nah, not at all. I really want that rematch. I want to make that fight happen again sooner than later. And I know it will, and I know we put on a show. We both put on a show. I can't take nothing away from Fundora. He's a real fighter. Um, but like I said, I don't take. I got no nightmares or anything about that. I
You,
felt like if 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 it won a series of unfortunate events, like my shoulder and my nose and all that type of shit, me blowing it and all that type of stuff, I felt like I would have came out with the W for sure.
Gotcha. I'm happy you kind of said that because it brings me to my next question. Obviously it wasn't the result that you wanted, but man, you and Fundora, you guys are in the driver's seat for fight of the year. And I mean, you never know how the rest of the year is going to play out, but there's a good chance you guys are going to win that. Like, how did it kind of make you feel to, even though you didn't get the win, like you gave the fans all of their money worth, man.
I'm happy. I'm happy. I gave the fans their money's worth, but I don't like being in fights like that. The name of the game is to hit and not get hit. You can't be in no. I mean, it'll happen. You got to be built for it. I'm definitely built for it, but I don't like being in fights like that. I like to hit and not get hit.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's just different. Fundora, he's 6'7", so he's he's right there. We in the. I don't know how big the ring was, but every step I made, he was right there next to me. With one step, he was right there.
Got it. Makes a ton of sense. Um, we're only in April. Fans always want to know what's next. I don't really want to ask you what's next because I know you already told me that you really want the rematch with Fundora. But are you trying to spend like the rest of this year kind of resting and just, getting your
I,
mind
I,
right?
I, my mind is right, man. My mind is right. I've done enough resting.
So
I've done
I'm
enough.
so
I fought 2020. I fought one time. 2021. I fought one time. And I'm not trying to just waste my youth with fighting one time a year. Like those injuries from Saturday night are already healing. I'm gonna heal a little bit more. I'm gonna talk to my team, see how much time they want me to take out of the gym. I'm gonna get this surgery on my shoulder, and then I'm right back to the money.
I hear it, man. And just my last question. Well, my last two questions for you. Crazy fight. It was amazing. So it sounds like as soon as your team gives you the green light, and as soon as the doctors give you the green light, you're gonna jump back in the gym, and you're hoping to get back into the ring, sometime by the end of this year.
Yeah.
Got it. And for your comeback fight, I know that you want to fight Fundora again, but is there anyone that you kind of have your eye on? Like, I wouldn't mind fighting this guy on my way back. Or do you just have not, or you don't have anybody really in mind at the moment?
I don't got no picks, man. I ain't got no picks. It's really whoever makes the most sense and is the best opportunity for me to become world champion. Then I'm definitely I'm looking forward to that. Forward to fighting best guys and for the belts.
Got it, man. Really appreciate you giving me the time to, just talk to you. Really, really appreciate it, man. I hope you rest up well, man.
All right, bro.
Thank you, man.